And so we'll send it out, but you know, there is background noise in the park. Today we're having a Q&A with Donald, our caretaker, and Grace, who is our communications manager. And Donald has been saying, since I've known him, I met him in 2015, he started working at Washington Square Park in 2014. He always says there's never a dull day in Washington Square Park. So I'm gonna go dark. I'm gonna, so just some housekeeping. We'll record the lecture, put your questions in the question box or in the chat. I'll be watching, but we're gonna do them all at the end. Grace, I'll let you take it away. I know you have some questions there for Donald.
Yes, we do. And hello, everyone. I am your disembodied voice today. I'm going to let Donald be on camera so that he can be heard. As Cheryl was saying before, volume and making myself heard is not a problem for me. So, Donald, let's get started. How long have you been working here in Washington Square Park?
I've been here in Washington Square Park for, well, as a CPW.
Donald, if you can just be sorry to interrupt, if you can just be a little louder.
Little louder.
Yeah, thanks, sorry.
September 9th will make 2 years. Before that, I was here 5 years as a CSA.
Okay, and what is a CPW and what's a CSA for people who don't know?
Well, a CSA is basically a city seasonal aide who basically works the same position as a CPW with the exceptions of a CSA isn't allowed to drive. Now, they both cover basically the same duties, but a CPW is full-time, where the CSA is seasonal, so he works like 7 months out of the year.
So you are a CSA and a CPW, and what's your title now?
That's what I am now, CPW.
CPW, okay. And how, you know, what's
I'm sorry, which is basically just a city park worker.
And what's a normal day like here for you?
A normal day, well, since basically since the pandemic, where they had to move DeAndre's, when they had to readjust his schedule, he and the other guy, Saul, who covered the bathrooms, neither of them are here on Wednesdays. So now, when I come in on Wednesday and Thursdays, my first thing is to take care of the bathrooms, clean up the bathrooms, you know, get everything ready for the day. Then I get out into the park and take care of whatever needs to be done. Recently, it's been a lot of graffiti, so I've done a lot of graffiti removal. Then I'll get into the park, you know, picking up trash, or if work needs to be done, like getting under the benches or whatever, like that.
Okay. And let's talk a little bit about that graffiti, because I know you've had to take care of, clean up quite a lot of it, but how did you learn how to actually clean that up? Because I'd imagine it's a little more involved than just taking a sponge to it.
Yeah, and there's definitely different techniques to be used on different types of graffiti, where you may have markers. With the markers, I use this solution called felt pen fade out, or we also have these wipes that look like almost like a you know, you go to the restaurant, the little nap. Yeah,
like a little wet nap.
A wet nap, that's it. It looks like that, but it breaks down that graffiti. Oh God, that stuff is good. That stuff is good. Then for tougher things, like the felt pen fade out, I would use a brush to apply it, then just go over it with water and wash it away. Now, but out here in the park with the paint, I have to use another chemical called the World's Best. Yeah, World's Best graffiti remover. And it's a bit more work to it, but it's basically simple. You know, just do a few applications of the chemical and spray it away with the pressure washer.
And you work with Parks, Monuments, and Antiquities team a lot, right? Because they come and they...
From time to time. Not so much a lot, but from time to time. Like, I just got notified just got a text from a young lady, Danielle, with the merchant's house, and they have a situation over there they want me to come and attend to. But I don't have a problem going to do it, but I had to explain to her I can't keep using the chemicals that are supplied to me for this park to go work on their thing. I gave them all of the information for the chemical, and if they can get their chemical, I can go. But I can't keep taking away from this park to go over there. But this park is constantly being bombarded with graffiti. Just in being fair to both places.
And where do you learn about the different kinds of products, the different methods you can use?
Well, I was first attracted to it just because just watching the guys do it, I was fascinated. So every time they would come into the park to do work, I would go and watch them. One of the guys happened to be a brother of a friend of mine. He and I started talking, and it made it easier to, get into the how-to, and I basically learned from watching them, and then I took a couple of classes also with the Monuments Division and learned more. So that's how I got to know how to take care of certain issues.
And so it sounds like the graffiti is a pretty big maintenance challenge for you. Is it the biggest, or is there something else that takes over?
I don't even consider the graffiti thing to really be big because I enjoy doing it so much. But again, the biggest task I've had to tackle here would be like removing homeless encampments. They tend to, along the back in the little alcoves over there, they'll set up a house, and if you're not paying attention to it, before you know it, it's like someone actually put their house in. There's so much stuff. I mean, I can remember having to load a dump truck twice.
Wow.
With stuff. From one person.
Wow. That's a lot of stuff.
That I would say has been like the biggest thing.
So we know you enjoy cleaning up the graffiti, but is there another maintenance project that you really love doing?
Well, actually, almost anything that costs me to use my hands. If I have to work on something, I have to use my hands to do it. Just love it. Love it. Yeah.
And you've got a good job.
I didn't tell you this, but I'm like, you could call me the caretaker of the fountain because I basically whatever needs to be done to that fountain, with the exceptions of plumbing.
We'll let parks handle the plumbing.
Yeah, exactly. Anything minor, like clean up or pulling out the filters and, cleaning the filters and make sure that, it's not clogged up. I do all of it.
What do you use to clean the actual physical fountain itself?
Actually, I just use a pressure washer because the fountain has two tanks in the ground. One tank is like a dump tank. So like when I flush the water out, it goes into that one tank. And then the other tank fills up. When it fills up, that'll be the water that'll come back into the tank. So it's fresh water coming in, and the dump tank will get flushed out to the sewer system. So when I clean the fountain, I just use a pressure washer, push everything down it all goes down into the dump tank. And then once I turn on the fill tank to put the water back in, the dump tank empties. So it's like a pressure thing.
You're the fountain whisperer. A little bit.
But that's something else I picked up on. I just watching. I watched one of the CPWs working on it. It's just fascinating. So it's like my baby.
You're fascinated by a lot. It's great. You have a very inquisitive mind. You probably spend more time walking around this park than almost anyone else. If you had to pick a favorite part of the park or a favorite thing in the park, could you?
Well, honestly, my absolute favorite thing in this park is the Hangman's Elm. Just, I mean, when you look at it, when you look at it, you say to yourself, this tree has been here over 300 years. Could you imagine what it would have to say if it could talk? All of the things, I mean, just over the years. And sometimes I find myself just sitting and looking at it, thinking if I could hear some of the things that happened around that tree.
For those who are unfamiliar with this tree, it's the big old English elm tree that's in the northwest corner of the park, right next to that corner entrance there. It is a big, gorgeous tree, and if the approximations of its age are correct, it would make it the oldest tree in Manhattan.
Yes.
Not in New York City. There is an older tree, or a few older trees, but in Manhattan. I think so. And so, you know, obviously you are a Parks Department employee, but you clearly work very closely with us here at the Conservancy. It's a great partnership. We love working with you. What do you like about having the Conservancy around?
Well, the best thing about it is I was here before the Conservancy was working closely with the park, and it's a big difference. I mean, there's so much more life in terms of like what the Conservancy is putting into the park in terms of like the flowers and things, you know, the work that the gardeners are doing, which is supported by the, of course, the Conservancy. But the best thing is when I need something, I need help, and I can't seem to get it from the Parks Department, the Conservancy comes to me. It makes things so much easier, you know.
Well, you always come through for the park, so.
Sorry?
You always come through for the park, so you deserve to have that too.
I tell people, people tell me, they say this park is the worst. I said, no, this park is beautiful. You should see this park at like 9 o'clock in the morning when it's just nice and quiet. And you look out, you can see the beauty of the park. Before all of the people see, that's when the ugliness comes in. The ugliness comes in with the people. The park is beautiful. And I really like it. When I come in the morning, I get a chance to stop and look. I look around the park. The park is beautiful.
And if there was something that you really wanted people to know about your job, if you could tell everyone that comes into Washington Square Park something, what would it be?
About my job? It's kind of difficult to answer because I'm not sure. But I'll say this, right? The most rewarding part of my job, and I look forward to it. I don't look for it, but I look forward to it. I love to hear it, is when people say to me, thank you for what you're doing. Because it makes me know that like efforts aren't in vain. Even though you have people who will come right behind you and throw something on the ground, or there's people who recognize what you're doing and they say thank you.
Okay, so for everyone who's on today, here, let's get a nice close-up on Donald's face, and make sure when you see him, you can go ahead and say thank you, because he loves hearing thank you from people, letting him know that he's working hard. And I'm not sure I've ever met anyone that works quite as hard as you do, Donald. Every time I come to the park, you're doing something else, you're working on something else. It's wonderful to see how much you care about this park.
There's so much to be done here. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I have my moments when I can get 5 or 10 minutes, maybe even 15 sometimes. But it's not for long. It's something else that needs to be done. Like I said, when you're doing it, not because you were told to do it or someone asked you to do it, but you're doing it just because you know it needs to be done. To hear people walk up and say thank you,
it makes a difference.
Yeah, it makes it worth doing.
Well, we are thankful for you every single day.
Thank you.
Okay, Cheryl, do we have any questions from our lovely audience?
Hello, folks. I'll try not to be in disembodied head. So I do want to say that you did get a thank you in the comments. Betsy said the park workers are doing a great job. Each morning is a new challenge, more beautiful than ever. So
your thank yous are already starting, Donald. Someone's saying thank you right there in the chat for you.
Okay. So we have a question from Lita. She wants to know, what are some of the quote unquote interesting things that you've come across or found, like have you found like somebody's ring or a favorite kid's toy as you are cleaning?
That's a great question. So it's Donald can't hear Cheryl very well, so I've got a headphone in to hear her, and I'm translating over to Donald. So the question was, if you've ever found, what's the most interesting thing you found while you were cleaning, like a personal item?
Well, honestly, I was once sandpapering a bench because there was some graffiti on the bench. And as I'm sandpapering, I see a piece of paper inside the bench. So I'm saying to myself, I'm wondering what it is, but I'm still sandpapering. And finally I said, you know what, I can't keep it. And I plucked it up. It was a $20 bill.
There you go. It's a nice bonus.
I said, someone knew I was going to be here working today and they wanted to give me a little tip.
Oh, that's great.
But
Tip from the universe.
Oh, one time I didn't find it, but it was brought to me. A lady brought it was when the Galaxy Note, I think it was like whatever number it was, it had just come out. And the everything in the phone was in French. And I was like, well, nobody here that I know speaks French. She said, well, I know a little French. So I said, well, why don't you open the phone and see if you can find a family member or something in there that you can call. And she did that. She contacted the person's son. The person who lost the phone was here on almost like a commune. Him and a bunch of people were here. They were staying over in the I think what is that? The little hotel right over here on Waverly.
Washington Square Hotel.
Washington Square Hotel.
Right. I don't know why I couldn't remember that name, but they were staying over there, and the son was able to contact someone from the group to let the father know that his phone had been found and come back and pick it up at the park, and I was there to get it.
Wow, that's like some sleuthing detective work there.
That was really cool.
Nancy Drew Hardy Boys detective work you got going on there.
Hey, you got it
That's
done.
pretty
Thankfully,
good.
she spoke French.
There you go.
She was able to recognize the name and called and got the man his phone back.
It's important.
That's great. Once I was participating in one of the monthly cleanups, and I found half a skateboard, and then I found the other half. That was kind of interesting.
It's so important when you think of all of the contact. Just imagine losing your phone, and you have to get all of those numbers back.
I don't think I would be able to do that. I don't even have any phone numbers memorized anymore. I used to when I was a kid. But
Yeah, you don't need to, man.
I don't think I've ever found anything here in Washington Square Park, but as a young child coming to play, I am sure I lost numerous sand toys and Barbie dolls.
I told you I found a Metro card a few days ago.
Metro card's a nice thing to find.
$26.75.
Few free subway rides.
That's gonna come in quite handy. That's a week's travel.
Yeah.
So Grace,
Cheryl,
we
do you have any more questions?
yeah, we have two more questions. So
Great.
one is, this is from an anonymous questioner. In the time that you've been working at Washington Square Park, what's changed the most about how people use the park space?
That's a great question. So you've been working here in Washington Square Park for a very long time. What have you seen change in how people use the park over that time?
Well, when the school was open, in my opinion, it seemed like every year the kids just they got worse. No, seriously. I mean, yeah, they did. I mean, do you know, last year, I pulled 4 4 goldfish out of the fountain.
Goldfish?
We're talking about fish maybe like this big. These kids were coming here and putting live goldfish into the fountain, thinking that the fish could survive.
No, fish cannot survive. PSA, fish cannot survive in that fountain. Please do not put any in there.
And they just get sucked down through the system and end up in the drainage filters that I end up pulling. That's 12.
Okay.
Crazy.
I think, Grace, that
that
I think that counts for the funniest thing he's ever found.
the park looks great in terms of what the gardeners are doing. So I'd say that's definitely the most noticeable change.
Donald, I think that's probably the weirdest thing you've ever found here. That counts.
Fish?
Add that onto the list of strange items.
Definitely. And it was to the point where people were like, find any fish today? Let it go, right? Let it go.
Not the nice fishing vacation you had in mind.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. But, yeah.
All right, Cheryl, we got another one?
Yeah, we have one. I don't think Donald knows the answer to this because it's a gardening question. What's your favorite weed and least favorite weed to remove? And I'm pretty sure Donald does not do much horticulture.
Yeah, Donald, do you do much of, do you really deal with the weeds, right? That's mostly the port guys?
The most I do with the weeds is as they bag them up, I pick them up and I come by with the bin because, well, for one reason, I over my 7-year career with the parks, I've never been like formally trained to where I could even recognize the difference between a weed and those plants. Safer, yeah. So it's safer to keep me out of the garden because I might mess around and pull something that shouldn't be pulled. So I choose to just pick up the bags. We leave the weed to the other people.
Your kind of weed is the already weeded weed.
Exactly. I'll weed the bags, yeah. I remove those.
Grace, I have a question. I don't see any more questions going through, but I have a question. I just learned something here today. Donald, I wish you could talk more about the 2 different tanks in the fountain. There's like a tank that goes to the sewer and something that gets recirculated. Please explain.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, can you talk a bit more about the 2 different tanks in the fountain? Because we didn't realize there were multiple tanks.
Oh, yeah.
So that's interesting news.
Definitely, yeah. Well, one is the fill tank and one is the dump tank. Now, the purpose of the dump tank is all of the water that's in the fountain now, when it needs to be cleaned, like if I'm going to power wash the fountain, I go out on the lawn and there's a tool I use, goes in the ground, and I open it up and drain all of the water out of the fountain. Once all of the water is out, I do what I need to do as far as cleaning. Then I go down into the basement and I throw a lever. That lever pushes the water through the pipe into the fill tank. And once the fill tank reaches its capacity, it pushes the water out, and that fills the fountain back up.
So these are massive tanks. They're holding all of that water.
They're big enough for me to stand in.
Wow.
And they may be as long as this alcove. Yeah.
So we are we're hanging out in the alcove across from the large playground, and I'd say this is like 40.
Not quite that far. Let's say it's about 20 feet. It's about 20 feet deep, but it's like a little bit more than 6 feet tall. Because, like I said, I can stand in it.
Right. Wow.
So Grace, a follow-up.
Maybe about 6'5", maybe even 6'6".
That's tall. That's big. Yes, Cheryl.
So are the tanks underground or are they in the basement?
Yeah, so the tanks themselves, are they underground? They're under the lawns?
Yeah, they're underneath the lawn right across from the office.
Oh, okay. Oh.
The next time you're there, I can show you the markings because there are 3 pipes that come out of the ground. And what those pipes,
that's what those are.
The purpose of those pipes are, that's the monument crew right there. The truck that just went by, that's monument. The purpose of those pipes are, those are pressure releases. So as the tank fills up, the air that's in the tank, as the water comes in, the water pushes the air out, and it comes out through those, through those things.
Fascinating. I had no
Wow.
idea.
I had
Bigger.
never knew.
That's why it's two opposed to the
Never knew.
dump tank that only has one.
Got it. And what happens to the dump tank water?
Oh, once the fill tank gets full to the point where it pushes out to the fountain, the dump tank automatically dumps into the sewer system.
Wow.
So that's washed out.
That's so cool. That's a great system.
That's so neat. I never knew any of this.
The system is great. That's what's great. Right now, we have to get there's a tank on the in the pump room downstairs that takes bromine tablets, which are used to keep the water purified, clean, like chlorine almost. But for some reason, that tank is clogged up, like it's not doing what it's supposed to do. And it had been discussed that it was going to be changed, but it hasn't been changed yet. I mentioned it to my supervisor the other day. He argues the point that it's been changed. I said, well, if it's been changed, it's doing the same thing it was doing before it was changed. So it needs to be changed again, basically.
So the plumbers need to come and visit.
Right now, I have to.
So we need a visit from our friends, the plumbers.
Yeah. Right now, to get the bromine into the tank to try to keep the water somewhat clean, I have to put the tablets inside the filters, because filters catch all of the water. It filters the water going back to the fountain. So by putting the tablets into the filters, as the water rushes out to go back to the fountain, it's taking the bromine with it.
That's a smart workaround until you can get the
It was
main
something
system.
I came up with.
It worked.
Excellent.
Okay, Cheryl,
Well,
anything else? Or?
Yeah, I just want to say that Lita had said it's such a pleasure to quote unquote meet some of the heart that contributes to Washington Square Park. Thank you, Donald, for what and how you do to take care of my park. So another thank you there. And that brings
That
us.
is a lovely thank you from
Oh,
our
you have to pass it
audience.
along, Grace. And
Most welcome. It's been a
that
pleasure.
is.
Yes. I'm actually gonna, because Donald, I want you to read this. I'm gonna pull up the chat. Such a pleasure to meet some of the heart that contributes to Washington Square Park. Thank you, Donald, for what and how you do to take care of my park.
Wow, that's so nice. Thank you. And you're most welcome.
Well, that brings us to the top of the hour. Donald, thank you so much. And Grace, thank you and everyone, thank you for, I know when we do these on-site talks, it's a little bit harder to hear and get all of our tech, but we'll learn for next time. Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Cheryl. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.